Okay, then let's open the floor to public comment.
Aloha, my name is Leilani Lindsay Kaapuni. I live here in Hilo. I work at Kahakaula o Ke'elikolani here at University of Hawaii. I was in attendance at the September 27th meeting of this board where public comment was taken at the beginning of the meeting prior to the agenda items that were discussed. And I attended the meeting particularly to hear about the decommissioning plan of 5 telescopes. And what I heard was a discussion about relocation, not decommissioning, of Hokuke'a Observatory to the Halepohaku area. Additional public comment was not allowed for the rest of your last meeting. So it appears that your recommendation went straight to the Board of Regents, because I now see in their resolution, their proposed resolution, a plan for a new educational telescope facility established at the already developed land at Halepohaku. And there was no public comment allowed for this. So I will be in attendance at that meeting on Wednesday to voice my opposition and objections to that plan. I also see in their proposed resolution, or their resolution draft, plans to develop an educational facility in the Halepohaku area and a CIP request to the legislature for funding. Imiloa Astronomy Center opened in 2006. I worked there for a few years, and it was established to be an educational facility, supposedly where Hawaiian culture and astronomy could come together and further educational outreach and be a place where visitors and as well as local residents, Hawaii residents, could come to learn about astronomy. And so developing another educational facility at the Halepohaku area, I believe that was the proposal, seems like it would just be a duplication of something that already exists, that is not fully utilized at this time. So for myself personally, as a Hawaiian practitioner and as someone who has lineal connections to Mauna Kea, Halepohaku is a very culturally significant area, even though it has been severely impacted by development. In our genealogy from Umialiloa, it was a place where he erected a dwelling, where he spent much time, where ahu, heiau, and places of worship were located. We have continued to hold those ceremonies. I must say sometimes it's we are disrupted in the middle of Pule by bullhorns. There are visitors who will walk right up to practitioners and take pictures and actually walk in between us and ahu in the middle of ceremony. So even though Mauna Kea seems to be lauded by the UH and the astronomy community as a place, a premier location for astronomy, it seems that the mountain is also promoted heavily as a tourist attraction. And this is offensive to me as a Hawaiian and as a practitioner. So I will adamantly oppose a cultural center at the Halepohaku area, as well as the establishment of a new observatory there. I believe you need to have some balance on your Kahuku Mauna Council, and that this should be some of the kuleana that they bring forth, because these are important, culturally significant places. And but I just wanted to let you know that I did not feel that public comment was taken before you made some of these decisions and recommendations to the Board of Regents. Thank you.
Aloha and good morning. My name is Deborah J. Ward. I've been before you before. I wanted to comment on some of the Board of Regents resolutions, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself today. Number one, the idea that the telescope would be decommissioned by 2021 is unrealistic. A notice of intent, a site assessment, an EA and an EIS with public comment periods for each. BLNR review of a conservation development application and permit approvals must be completed before contracts can be let to remove these facilities. And in phase 2, which is only now begun to be described, after the top and the floor are removed, then an analysis of the permeable cinder will characterize the pollutants that have been put in the French drain and into the toilets, and determine the depth of the material to be removed. And this will not be completed by 2021, no matter how much the Regents would like it to be done. Similarly, in number 2, the recommendation number 2, they can Gantt chart all they want, but this will not be accomplished any faster than the EIS and the review process allow. My comment on number 3 is that while it's desirable to have the only student teaching telescope available, it would not need to be removed, if at all, if the governor would alter his proposed Mauna Kea plan. The governor came up with a plan, it would seem, without consulting this board, because many of the recommendations shocked and horrified the board. And I think that that is exactly what's happened with the Board of Regents. That's why I'm speaking for myself, because I feel so strongly that the people that come from Oahu that do not understand the nature of what's going on here make decisions for us that have no real value. And in this particular case, the removal of the only student teaching telescope, just because it's owned by the university, is short-sighted and painful to those of us who think that the university's mission is to be teaching, not building more telescopes. The sixth comment that I have, the number 6 recommendation I have is that Imiloa was tasked with something that will require a tremendous amount of work, and all of a sudden they're supposed to have it done by August of 2020, which is less than a year away. And I'm wondering if you discussed this idea with Imiloa before they got a new unfunded mandate. On the 7th recommendation, that the legislative session be asked to plan, design, and construct an educational center at Halepohaku. There is an educational center that will educate visitors on cultural, environmental, and astronomy-related topics relating to Mauna Kea. It's called Imiloa. It barely draws enough visitors to maintain the facility, and we do not need another museum, cultural center, on Mauna Kea. When Imiloa was proposed, you all said it would keep the traffic in town and discourage traffic to the mountain. So why would you create more traffic at Halepohaku and take out more mamani trees in critical habitat, costing the taxpayer additional funds to bring out visitors to a high elevation site? You claimed earlier that hauling water up to Ho'akuloa was a drain on resources, and that's why the toilets were closed for 2 months a couple of years ago. And now water is planned to be hauled up to support a new telescope and a new educational center. I'm not sure that any of these things were well thought out before the resolution was made. The Mauna Kea Master Plan will accommodate uses by Native Hawaiian cultural practitioners. This is a bit overdue. I can't say more than that because I'm furious about it. The number 9 recommendation to restructure this board, it needs to include more right holders, not stakeholders, because the right holders should have the bulk of the seats at this table. And finally, resolution number 12, the idea that the university would pursue a partnership with an appropriate agency or organization whose primary beneficiary is the Native Hawaiian community would appear to be something that would not actually be a benefit to the Native Hawaiian community at all. And what we need to do is reduce the number of commercial shuttles and tours to the mountain, and provide shuttles for visitors who do not have four-wheel drive, and then require that all UH employees also take the shuttles. I think this would reduce the amount of risk of bringing unanticipated invasive species up the mountain, for one thing. And I think that's something we should consider very strongly. So thank you for the opportunity to share with you.
Good morning, Corey Harden speaking for myself. Thank you for listening to comments talking about the resolution, and I share the concerns that Leilani and Debbie have told you eloquently. On number 1 and 2, the Caltech, this is the first decommissioning on Mauna Kea, and we really need to get this right, so this should not be rushed through. It's going to set a precedent for decommissioning in the future, because it hasn't been done before. I mean, and on, you know, a very high mountain that's very cindery, and there's a lot of issues that need to be done right. On number 3, I do think that Ho'okea should be used as the educational telescope, and the community should be involved in choosing where it goes. On number 4, I'm a little concerned about if 2024 is a realistic date for decommissioning the Euclid telescope. On 6, regarding the educational programs, I think the observatory should pitch in to help fund that. On number 7, about the educational center, you don't need 4 walls. You got the mountain. If there's people to help interpret it, I think that's going to speak just volumes more than a center built by people. I mean, we're down here meeting in this dungeon. We forget there's a whole outdoors there. That will teach far more to see all this that was not made by humans and realize what your place is there. 9, on a reorganization and restructuring plan, I think that's worthwhile. I think the resolution should be clear about who is going to prepare the plan, and the community should be involved in the preparation. And on 10, I'm glad to see there's new ideas for management on the table. One suggestion I have is any new management entity meet somewhere else besides the Institute for Astronomy, because that really gives the appearance of favoring the observatories over the natural and the cultural resources. So, thank you.
Morning, Peter Young. My only comments are relative to the action items 1 and 2 on the resolution, and would encourage, and I realize it's a resolution from the Regents, but if you guys are going to weigh in with respect to the Caltech submillimeter observatory, Caltech is submitting testimony asking that the date be changed to December 31st, 2021, not April 30th. It's just not practical to have it at the end of winter. And we still need to go through the formal permitting process. The same permit process to build a telescope is what we're being asked to do to take down a telescope.